All right, welcome back here for the 8 o'clock hour. Dave Hyde from the Sun Sentinel in here. Was at the press conference. And another guy that's been covering the Miami Dolphins all season long, he's been through it all with us, Chris Perkins from the Sun Sentinel. Perk, good morning. How you doing?
Oh, man, my head is spinning like everybody else. But that's
Wow.
what I'm doing. I'm wondering what in the world is going on here.
So Perk, you saw how bad Tua played. I don't need to tell you those make-believe garbage numbers in the fourth quarter and the way he played the first three and all the things that happened. But I'm still very surprised that Mike came out yesterday and it made it sound like there's a good chance there's going to be a change of quarterback today. Do you think that happens?
Well, here I think there's a good chance. But what I'm wondering is, has Stephen Ross given Mike McDaniel any kind of assurance that regardless of what happens here in these last three games, he's coming back? If they finish, 6-9, or I guess it wouldn't be 6-9, 6-11, and they have a change at quarterback, is that going to affect how Steve Ross looks at Mike McDaniel? Because if so, I don't think that you make the change, right? I mean, you're probably not going to do as well with either Zach Wilson or Quinn Ewers as you would have done with Tua. And so is this going to decide Mike's fate? Because if it does, I would think Mike sticks with Tua, right?
So what you're saying, it wasn't Mike's decision?
Well, I'm saying is the result of the season in light of a quarterback change going to be held against him? Like, has Steve Ross made his decision already as to whether Mike comes back, or will these last three games be a big factor? And if you're Mike, do you really want to put your future in the hands of Quinn Ewers or Zach Wilson?
I think
that's what I'm wondering.
By the way, I haven't asked you. I think Mike's pretty safe.
Oh boy.
I think Mike McDaniel's pretty safe.
You know what, Joe, and I could kind of agree with the quarterback change. And look, I understand that now that the playoff hopes are over, you might as well take a look. But if your job is on the line,
oh no, then you don't play them. I agree.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Because and here's the other thing, because if you're Mike, you're further putting on the line, have I ever developed a backup quarterback? Because we haven't seen it with Skyler or Mike White or Teddy Bridgewater or Snoop Huntley. None of these backups have done well in this particular offense. And this coming game, maybe you can win it with the run game. Cincinnati has the worst run defense in the NFL. But in the last two games, Tampa is number 10 in run defense. New England is number 5 in run defense. So the game becomes more quarterback dependent. And are you comfortable putting that on the right arm of Zach Wilson or Quinn Ewers if your future rests on the outcome of those games?
Yeah, but I don't think that is the case where the future of Mike McDaniel rests on these games. I think it's either to me the future rests on who's going to pick the next quarterback. Is Steve Ross going to go out and get another general manager? Is he happy with Champ Kelly? And if he's happy with Champ Kelly, he's probably going to keep Mike as coach.
Can I give you guys another one we don't talk about enough? I believe that Mr. Ross, and I think most of us, that this team doesn't have enough talent overall. That's the one thing. I know we sit and we talk about Tua because it's the most important position. I think everybody's looked, and that's why Chris is gone, that there's just not enough talent on this roster. Do you agree, Chris, or no?
I disagree. I think that Chris Grier gave you the best talent you've had in 2 decades, all right? And so we're going to look at the top three, Grier, McDaniel, and Tua. Grier gave you the best talent you've had in 2 decades. It wasn't Super Bowl winning talent. We all know that. You had enough talent to win a playoff game. So Grier gives you that talent. It's up to Mike and Tua to make it work. And so that's kind of how I look at it, and that's why I have all three of them linked. Either all three stay or all three go. And I've been leaning toward all three need to go. And I'll tell you this also, Joe, you look at if Mike comes back,
yeah,
I think that it should be a demand. And I think Brandon Shore might have a voice in this. He seems to be a rising power in the organization, the salary capologist, but he seems to be a rising power. But Mike should have to compromise that big play pass offense, right? Because, Joe, last year, They go to the dink and dunk offense. They go 6-3, right? They finish 6-3. This year they go to the run game. They win 5 out of 6. You've had more success running against the 8-man front than you did throwing against that 2-deep zone.
Yeah.
You've got to incorporate parts of the dink and dunk and the run offense into next year's offense if Mike comes back. And this is the other thing with the biggest thing about Mike, and Dave Hyde mentioned this the other day, he rehabbed Tua, but pretty much all he told Tua was throw it to Tyreek. Now that Tyreek is gone, Tua isn't nearly as good a quarterback, and Mike's rehab project doesn't look as good.
But you're the whole tenet there is that there's enough talent because he had Tua. And Tua, as we've seen, isn't very talented. He's not an NFL quarterback. He's not a starting NFL quarterback on a good team. And so to me, the fact that Mike, and I've said this morning, I was thinking driving in here, it's almost a shame that Mike might be pushed out the door now after he's learned how to be a head coach. I think he's learned how to be a head coach.
I think he's made some change. You agree, Perk? You're there every day. I think Mike's made some changes as the way he treats this team and what he's been through. You think he's learned a lot or not really? You think he's the same guy?
He's made changes. He's definitely made changes, but these changes needed to be made after the 22 season. And this is where I view it as an organizational failure because of the player empowerment thing and the Tyreek-based offense and not enough running incorporated into the offense that somebody should have said this to Mike after the 2022 season so that in 2023, when you were prepared to win a playoff game, you could have done that. You could have beaten Philly, or you could have beaten Kansas City, or you could have beaten Buffalo, and that would have helped you get that home playoff game. Now, you shouldn't have lost to Tennessee, but that would have helped you get the home playoff game, and you could have won. I just think that so much of this goes back to Mike. It's not Chris Grier. It's not Tua. I think a lot of it is Mike.
Whoa, Perk. Chris Grier drafted Tua. That was his responsibility. He gave the contract to Tua. Now we can say Mike
gave all those extensions.
Mike went in and pounded the table for him. Yeah,
correct.
but he's the veteran GM who says no, we're not going to give it. He made the trades for Tyreek, giving up a whole draft, made the trade for Jalen Ramsey, knowing that, and then redid the contracts. So Mike might have been pushing for that because I agree with you that this culture of comfort that Mike started here, just that's not the way to go. But a veteran GM has to check a first-time head coach and say, no, that's not the way to go.
I agree 100%. That's why Chris isn't here. But a smarter coach would have recognized Tua's limitations after 2022, right? And
correct.
said, we need more run game.
Yeah.
Right, Dave. So that's the thing, that Mike controls the on-field product. The off-field product, I know the draft and all that kind of stuff, and you're exactly right about that, Dave. I'm not saying Chris Grier deserves to be here. I'm saying among the three, Grier, McDaniel, and Tua, Grier did his job better. He did.
Oh, boy.
He did.
I'm 100% out on that one. You jumped in. I don't know what Chris. I know you walked out of that building with Chris a couple of times, brother. But Chris Grier, I'm even sick of hearing about a good guy. Listen, man. Cam Smith me somewhere else, brother. I don't want to hear it. No.
How many Pro Bowlers are on this roster right now?
What's that?
I said you had enough talent to win a playoff game. Again,
I agree with you. I agree with you, Perk.
That was the best team we had
22,
in 20 years.
23, yes. But what I'm saying is now, you got to make the decision now. I think Mike has learned a lot that I could understand keeping him. Whereas 2 years ago, I'm completely on board with you, Chris, that there were mistakes made.
Yeah, I don't – boy, I to keep his job, I think the team has underachieved each year. You could say maybe 2022 they didn't because you were just setting the bar. At 23, 24, 25, you underachieved every year.
Hey, Perk, I got to say this too. While we're getting into this, and it's going to get, I'm going to get into a lot more in the coming weeks. Brandon Shore needs to keep his ass to finances and not jump into the football side. He is not a football guy. He is not a football guy. You leave that up to whoever, the general manager, the assistant general manager. If Brandon Shore is going to be flipping over, helping make decisions, and turn into a little Mike Tannenbaum, That ain't going to cut it.
There's a fundamental problem right there in the Dolphins.
That's by the way, if Brandon Shore's good at contracts and good at overseeing things in the organization, that's great. But his ass should not be involved with anything to do with players except their contracts. Nothing. Running, jumping, personality, nothing. Small school, big school, money. That's it. You do contracts. You do great contracts. You work with your GM if something works or not. If it's too much, it doesn't work in the salary cap. That's Brandon Shore. But if we're starting to move him over because he wears nice suits and he's going to start to get into football, I got a big problem with that. And I will bark till I'm off this air about that.
Yeah, I know he's a rising voice. He's rising in power there. That's
well, I think he had more say last offseason because of all the
money. So we're going to put him in the responsibility too?
Listen to this. He had more say last offseason because they had such salary cap issues.
Yes, he was.
And
that's
so,
true.
And so you need your salary capologist to speak up and say
Chris,
we cannot keep doing this.
That is true. That, by the way, that's a fact. He did do that. Yeah. He did step up and go, guys, but that's finances, guys. We can't do that. No, we can't get that guy. We spent all that money on extensions a year before. We can't do this thing, or we're going to be in really bad shape, and it's going to look bad on me when Stephen Ross calls and says, why don't we have more money? Why didn't you guys tell me about this before I went out and spent whatever the amount of money on those extensions and that money they had to pay up front?
Yeah, and I said, go ahead, Perk.
I think that Shore is probably going to be more visible. He's probably going to have a louder voice, but I don't think that he's going to take over as the head personnel guy or the GM, but he's a rising power.
I will say this. The one thing that Steve Ross needs to do is empower the general manager and say, you run football, because there have been so many, Chris Grier allowed it. There have been other people outside, not just Brandon Shore, getting their mitts into the football decisions that have muddied up the water here. Yeah. And
we just got to get this thing in order at the top. We really do. Who's running the show?
Right.
And by the way, you got to have the confidence that you're doing and people aren't running behind your back. I mean, this thing doesn't need to look like an elementary third grade school where little Johnny's telling on little Susie that, she lifted her skirt or something. I mean, we need to we need to get back. You know what I'm saying? We just need to get rid of all the little stuff, man. I didn't need to say that, but
no, you didn't, but it amused me.
Thank you. That's the business I'm in.
I'll say this. You're exactly right about getting the house in order. And that's one thing that Mike McDaniel has done, and one thing that Steve Ross really likes. Steve Ross likes process. And that's one thing that Mike McDaniel has in his favor. And what I mean by that is this team didn't quit on Mike McDaniel, right?
Nope.
So that's kind of part of the process.
I hate that. I hate that line of argument.
That.
You know,
Woody hates that too.
You know, many times in the past 25 years we've said, "Hey, he's doing a good job. They're not quitting on him."
I know.
I mean, come on.
No, that's
the bar.
You're right.
And
I'm guilty of it too, Perk. I do it all the time, and Woody calls me out like, "Doesn't everybody try hard?" Yeah, you're right.
Right. Well, my problem with the process-oriented approach is it's a results-based business. And so give me somebody like Flo who, you say whatever you want about his people skills. He got more out of his talent
I agree.
than Mike McDaniel did.
Yes.
It's
by the
about
way,
results in the NFL.
You talked to he was great with us. He was great with us.
I had no problem with Flo.
I didn't have any problem. I know some guys
I
did.
think we're the three people around the Dolphins who had no problem with Flo.
Bo, Big Bo.
Bo too. Okay, there's four.
Yeah.
Big Bo might be president of the club. He's big.
Did you talk to other people, and he was really rough around the edges. Yeah. But you know what?
Yeah.
Ultimately, who looks good in all this mess this week with Tua is Flo. He told the organization, you cannot win with him.
Hey, Perk, I got to ask you here. If they do make a change, it's Zach Wilson, right? Not Quinn Ewers?
I think I would go to Zach. And the reason is Zach was your direct calculated target, right? He's got more experience in that offensive system, in the Shanahan system from his time with the Jets. And I just don't know if I'm ready to go. Well, here's the thing. What are you trying to accomplish in these last 3 games? Are you just trying to get by, or are you looking to see, do I have a possible starter for next season that I go into free agency and the draft thinking, okay, here's a guy who's going to compete for the starting job. If I don't get somebody better, we can start off the season with this guy. I don't know that either of those guys is in that position yet, but I think Zach Wilson is closer, so I would give Zach the first shot because of that. He's got a better chance to compete in training camp to be your 2026 starter. Quinn, I just, if he's a 7th-round pick, and how many of those guys pan out? I know Brock Purdy. I know Tom Brady was a 6th-rounder, but Skylar Thompson is usually the norm for 7th-round picks, so I'm giving Zach Wilson the first chance.
If that's the case, and poor Quinn, we're just going to have to let you go right now.
I'm with Zach Wilson. I want to see, is there anything there?
Yeah.
That's what you need. And this is a
arm.
decision of a franchise moving on. Perk, what's the percent you put on the curtain drop on the Tua era this afternoon?
I say 70%.
That's all? I want 100.
Yeah, by the way, I'm not that high. I still think there's –
You're going 50-50 on me, Joe?
50-50 too,
oh,
man.
My God.
No.
You cannot open this door and close it
You
now.
made sense when you said it to me last night.
Why?
I get it.
But to a much lesser extent, he did this with the backup quarterback, right? With Quinn Ewers overtaking.
It doesn't matter on the backup quarterback.
I know you're right. You're right. It's a different extent. But
this is a guy
why you can't open this door? Why? Because Tua's feelings are so fragile. Like put him on alert. Who cares?
Hey, you sound, just before I let you go, you sound like you're pretty much just get the hat trick and get him out of here, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. I am. I am. That's what makes the most sense. Just a clean sweep. And again, it's nothing personal. Chris was a nice guy. Mike was a nice guy. Tua's a nice guy. It's a results-oriented business, and they've all underachieved and disappointed.
That's fair. That's you're right. You're right on that, Perk.
Hey, Perk, you had a little build-up from coming home from that trip in Pittsburgh. So I appreciate you coming on this morning, my man, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen this afternoon. What time's that meeting taking place, Perk?
I think 2:45. I think is when Mike speaks. So it's this team might not win playoff games, but they give us plenty of headlines, right? Thank goodness for that. They're always interesting.
Hey, Perk, how do you do now? You know all the newsy people are going to show up today. This is going to be a big story if this happens. This is going to be a huge story here in town and nationally. Don't let them take your questions, man. That's what I'm saying.
Oh no, I got a loud voice, man. I just keep on talking. I just talk over people.
Perk sits right up front, right in the middle. And he's right there with his questions.
All right, Perk.
I'll make eye contact and talk loud.
There you go. Hey, Perk, thank you. Appreciate it, brother.
All right, guys.
All right, Chris Perkins from the Sun Sentinel. Wow. Boy, we could have done a show. We could have done 2 hours on that right there.
Now, he lit it when he lit both of us up when he said Chris Grier did a better job than McDaniel or Tua. I'm like, whoa.
I don't want to hear it.
I thought that road had been well traveled and decided by now.
I've been the cheerleader for that to happen for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. Like, enough.
I never understood why he was given this tank rebuilding job going back that far.
I said the same thing when they made that move. I said, you're giving this guy the biggest draft in the history of this franchise with all those 1s and 2s, actually 2 years of it. You're putting that guy in charge. If it doesn't work, and honestly, if you can't win and a big free agent class to go with it, a lot of money, Teron Armstead, all that money came in, and we still did not win a playoff game.
You make bad decisions, and they come to roost as they did just in this whole Tua decision.
Yeah.
The contract they gave him, et cetera.
Boy, all right, we got a lot more stuff to get to. We went a little long there just in case the program director's up early. But, hey, man, sometimes you just got to let it fly a little bit there. Hey, I want to talk about the main man. I know what he would do. He would be going, let's get this going, man.